James Talarico is not Ken Paxton, that's for sure, because James Talarico's never been indicted like Ken Paxton has. James Talarico's never been impeached like Ken Paxton has. James Talarico doesn't have any scandals of infidelity like Ken Paxton has. James Talarico is the antithesis of Ken Paxton because Ken Paxton is the most corrupt politician in America, according to James Talarico's new ad he just released today.
So with Ken Paxton beating out John Cornyn, the attacks from the right on James Talarico and the narratives of the talking points have already started in full force. But in this clip, we're going to see Keith Boykin just completely shut down these MAGA talking points about James Talarico in comparison with Ken Paxton, and he's going to absolutely lay the hammer down and tell the actual facts of the matter when it comes to comparing the two on CNN Newsnight. As usual, let's watch the clip in full. I'll give you guys my thoughts towards the end.
Good evening. I'm Abby Phillip in New York, and breaking news tonight. In one of the biggest primary showdowns of the year, CNN is projecting that Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton will defeat longtime incumbent Senator John Cornyn in the GOP runoff for U.S. Senate. It was a blowout win and a massive victory for Trump that tested his grip on the Republican Party. For months, Trump sat out this contest. But in a surprise move last week, the president endorsed Paxton, arguing that Cornyn wasn't loyal enough to him while he was president. So here's what Paxton had to say about Trump's support just a few moments ago.
When everyone in Washington told him to abandon me and abandon the people of Texas, he didn't listen. Instead, he gave his complete and total endorsement. President Trump is the leader of our party, and his endorsement in this is the most powerful force in politics. Tonight, we just sent a Texas-sized message to Washington. I said it in March, and I'll say it again now. Today, change was on the ballot, and change won.
Now, Paxton's nomination could ultimately complicate things come November. He is coming with, to put it lightly, a long, long laundry list of scandals that have plagued him. That's something that has worried some GOP senators who believe that Cornyn had a better chance of hanging on to this GOP seat in the fall. Brad Todd, I mean, he's right that Trump's endorsement is king in the Republican primary, but I'm wondering, do you think he is right that Trump made the right decision here to endorse Paxton?
Well, first off, incumbents tend to get in runoffs what they got in the first. And so John Cornyn's camp was already concerned that he was under 50% in the first. And you don't tend to grow much as an incumbent the second time around. But I think it's a big gamble by President Trump. Ken Paxton's a bad fundraiser. There's a lot of opposition research against him. He's a polarizing figure. His only saving grace in this is that he's running against James Talarico, who is the most radical person to ever run statewide in Texas. And this election in the fall will be a referendum on him more than it will be on Ken Paxton, I suspect.
James Talarico is not Ken Paxton, that's for sure, because James Talarico's never been indicted like Ken Paxton has. James Talarico's never been impeached like Ken Paxton has. James Talarico doesn't have any scandals of infidelity like Ken Paxton has. James Talarico is the antithesis of Ken Paxton because Ken Paxton is the most corrupt politician in America, according to James Talarico's new ad he just released today. So Democrats, don't really have a good shot usually in a state like Texas, but Donald Trump just gave Democrats the best possible hand they could by supporting Ken Paxton and not supporting his incumbent, John Cornyn.
I'll agree with you, John Cornyn. If John Cornyn had won tonight, we would never talk about the Texas Senate race ever again. And Ken Paxton was the only way this could be an ongoing topic on this network.
Yeah, and there is also the fundraising issue, as has been brought up, is that the Republicans are going to have to spend a lot of money on this race. And James Talarico, I think already in the first quarter, has raised like nearly $30 million. So the Democrats can literally leave him alone and let him operate on his own. And that's a big win for them, considering the amount of money they're going to have to spend in some other races. So from a strategy standpoint, even if James Talarico doesn't win, I think it still benefits the Democratic Party.
I also, I see Trump doing what he often does, which is deciding that someone's loyalty is not enough. Trump said in his endorsement of Paxton that John Cornyn is a good man and I work well with him, but he was not supportive of me when times were tough. John was very late in backing me in what turned out to be a historic run for the Republican nomination and then the presidency. And he's not wrong about that. But I mean, comments dating back to 2016, Cornyn is basically saying Trump would be a bad nominee, but so did a lot of people. So did Marco Rubio. So did J.D. Vance. So why is it that some people's loyalty is being held against them and other people it's not?
Abby, I don't think you have to go back to 2016. It was just a few weeks ago that Trump was on the precipice of endorsing John Cornyn. So when you throw out the fact that he's not loyal, the reality is that he was basically prepared to endorse Cornyn. There's no doubt that he has full grip on the Republican Party. I think you've seen that again in Indiana, you've seen that in Kentucky, you've seen that in Louisiana. In this case, though, I think he had clear evidence that Paxton was going to win this race, which is why he made
He
the
just
endorsement.
kind of jumped on the horse.
He got in front of the parade as fast as he could. I mean, again, if this was about being loyal or not, then he wouldn't have been prepared to endorse Cornyn just a few weeks ago.
You think that he's just trying to back the person who was likely
in this case. Now, again, I'm not questioning his command of the party because he's shown it again and again and again. But in this case, I think he was trying to get ahead of the parade.
I think Trump also has some unique insight here that indictments and impeachments and infidelities and divorces don't really disqualify a candidate, right? This is a man who's, the woman who was married to him for years won't even endorse him. But he's got that Trump endorsement. And apparently that is one of the biggest pieces of political capital we can have. They were just saying that in the clip we watched. But in truth, the biggest power is not a Trump endorsement. It's people showing up and voting. I'm excited to see in this general election how the youth vote, how the rural vote, how people of color turn out. Because folks like Ken Paxton are running on a record where they've enriched themselves and lined their pockets, right? His net worth has grown $12 million since he's been in office in 2003, basically my whole lifetime. And while Attorney General, he denied people water breaks, right? That was what he was running on. Meanwhile, he's got 10 homes all across this country. And so him and Donald Trump have a whole lot in common, and this endorsement is no surprise.
But Talarico doesn't have much in common with most Texans. I think that's going to be a real challenge. If you're basically saying that eating meat is such an existential threat to the environment, that's not going to play well in Texas.
The Texas swing voter is right of center. And the Democrats would have done themselves much better if tonight they had nominated a Hispanic, Catholic, tough on the border, tough on law and order, state legislator or sheriff or county commissioner in the border counties. I mean, Donald Trump carried the Rio Grande Valley. I think Republicans are going to carry most of the Rio Grande Valley in Congress races this year. James Talarico is Austin. He is the left of the Texas Democratic Party.
It's funny that Republicans, I wasn't even a James Talarico supporter. I supported Jasmine Crockett in the primary. I've been in Texas the past 5 months because I've been there with my mom. And I'm telling you that Texas is ripe for the pickings. Democrats have to have the right candidate and the right time. And Democrats are excited this year in the way that they haven't been in any other year in recent memory. So I think there's a lot of opportunity. And the fact that they're going after James Talarico the way they are, with these silly attacks about whether he eats meat or not, or whether he's
That's the worst that they come up with.
We can go further, Keith, if you want.
There's 12 million cows in Texas.
I get it.
If you want to say that Ken in Texas believes there's 6 genders, I think there's going to be a lot of
issues. He says the American flag is a complicated symbol.
But see, this is the kind of nonsense that Republicans want to play. They don't want to focus on the real issues about what's going to be good for Texas. Who's going to put money on your table?
Well, James Talarico
Food
is raising taxes on middle class
Who's going to make sure you have health
Paxton
insurance?
coming through as the nominee here. I actually think this is going to be a race largely about corruption. And there's a hunger for moral leadership right now in this party and across this country that I think James Talarico is speaking to.
Let me play some of these are some voters that were speaking earlier today during voting about their choice in this Senate race, Republican voters. Listen.
I was torn because I was going to go with Cornyn. But when Trump backed and I listened to Trump. I like Trump. I like Trump a lot.
I made one vote, and that was for Cornyn.
And why is that?
Primarily because he's not supported by Trump. I don't like Paxton's history, and that combined with Trump's support makes it a non-starter. I think he's ruined my Republican Party. I think he's divided America.
So that last gentleman, I don't know how many Republicans in the state of Texas feel that way. But I wonder about the 30-something% that Cornyn did get in this race and whether that's a sign of trouble. Because, Talarico, he had a statement tonight. He said he's thanking John Cornyn for his years of service. He says, we don't agree on everything, but we still believe in public service. To Senator Cornyn's supporters, you have a place in our campaign. I mean, I do wonder. Look, Democrats have a long history of wasting a lot of time trying to go after Republican voters. But I do wonder, I mean, how many Republicans, not only do they hate Paxton's history, but they don't like what Trump has been doing to the Republican Party and might be looking to send a message.
Look, I think Paxton is a divisive and a weak candidate for Republicans. I still think it's Texas, Abby, and I still think at the end of the day that even that candidate is going to beat Talarico in November. Will we spend a lot of resources in Texas that I wish we'd be spending elsewhere? Absolutely. Have we already spent a lot of dollars trying to support incumbent John Cornyn that some think maybe is replenishable, but some donors may feel like I just spent a ton of money and lost in a primary. It may not be. So I think this is...
And a lot of people are loyal to Cornyn in terms of
I think Cornyn is... The donors in Texas love John Cornyn, but they also do not want a left-wing Democrat like James Talarico. Now, I think he's a lift. I think he's a pretty big lift. But I think that the president has $300 million in his affiliated committees. There's no place like Texas to raise Republican money because it comes out of the ground and it won't stop coming out of the ground every day. And so
I think the real danger here, though, for Republicans is that Republican voters just won't show up. Because, I mean, Ken Paxton was impeached by Republican House of Representatives in Texas. It wasn't Democrats who impeached him, Republicans. He's not well-liked. He's not just scandal-plagued. He's disliked. And the idea that
Turnout's low tonight, too.
Well,
You're right about that.
Do you remember when back in the 2017 Alabama Senate race, Trump endorsed Roy Moore, who was accused of sexual encounters with young girls, teens, and he did so despite everybody basically telling him not to do it. Roy Moore goes on to lose that campaign by a small margin, but loses it. I mean, there is a prospect that this could be a similar setup.
Doug Jones promised he was a moderate in that race. James Talarico's not promising that.
I guess the question is on what are voters going to be voting on? Are they going to be voting on the price of gas being $4 plus, or are they going to be voting on what people think are, gender pronouns or whatever?
Yeah, and I was just about to bring that up. I think the state of the economy is really going to play in Democrats' favor in this race, especially in Texas, where they love to brag about how cheap everything is, and now it's not looking that way anymore. You also have, I think, the other issue is that because Trump has aligned himself with this person and they are like this is a historically unpopular president. So while, yes, the endorsement was enough to carry him with Republicans, but there's a whole lot of independents and a whole lot of swing voters that are like out on Trump completely. And I think that situation applies to Texas as well, despite the fact that on some level, I think you're right that the makeup of James Talarico is not what you would typically expect Texans to vote for. But considering everything that is happening in the country and all the issues, I think that this is probably as good of a chance as the Democrats have had in years to actually win this state.
The party of family values, that is what Republicans have been known as, what they refer to themselves as. But I want you guys to think about this. The party of family values is led by a man who paid hush money to a porn star while his wife was pregnant. Ken Paxton used his office to protect a donor he was allegedly having an affair with. Remember that, they impeached Clinton for an affair, but they gave Trump a pass for dozens of scandals that are far worse. They regulate marriage and people's bedrooms while ignoring their own leaders' conduct. It seems to me that MAGA only care about family values only when it applies to their opponents. And the thing for me is this: character used to matter in the Republican Party until their guy didn't have any. Now, I just want to touch on very briefly just some of the things that it is that we spoke about. I genuinely believe that Republicans are getting way too much ahead of themselves. Ken Paxton is a horrible candidate. Horrible. A scandal is so long that James Talarico's team will be able to have so much fun with it. Genuinely, he's such a horrible candidate. The fact that it is that Republicans are the ones that impeached him. His wife publicly came out and declared that he had been involved with infidelity. This is someone who doesn't reflect what Republicans like to think that it is that they reflect. But the reality is, we know that it's not the case, and it just isn't the truth. MAGA know absolutely nothing about morals and integrity. They don't. And that's the reason as to why Ken Paxton because of Donald Trump's endorsement, he's going to be going up against James Talarico. But James Talarico has absolutely nothing going against him in comparison to someone like a Ken Paxton. Let me know your guys' thoughts on this clip down in the comment section below. Do the usual stuff. Give the video a thumbs up. Hit the subscribe button if you're interested in a Brit's opinion on everything to do with American politics. Appreciate you guys. See you guys in the next clip.